Don't you know that you're a grown-up? No games, no puns. Not allowed if you're a grown-up.
Hey everybody, welcome to the GenXGrownUp Backtrack Podcast. As you know, this is the podcast between our regular podcast where we pick a single topic, whether it's a film or a movie or a game or an event, something from our youth as growing up as Gen X grown-ups that kind of led us to where we are now. I'm John. Joining me as always is Mo.
Hey everybody.
And George.
How's it going, guys?
So before we kick off our topic for this backtrack, we got some listener mail about our
Yay!
last backtrack.
Whoa! Our listener sent us another piece of email?
Our
That's
one
right,
listener.
Our one listener.
All right.
So this is from Mike, as I mentioned. He said, hey, in the last backtrack, you talked about your first video game console. But he would like to know, what is your favorite video game console?
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wow.
Mine's probably not going to be the normal one, but we had a Sega Genesis.
Okay.
And the reason why I liked it was because of Sonic the Hedgehog.
All right. So it was the game that drew
It was the
you in
game
more
more
than the
so
console.
than the... Yeah, it was the game. I played every iteration of that freaking game.
What about you, George?
All right. So it's an oddball choice to throw in here because I can't say what my favorite console was because I enjoyed every console I've ever had. But I think the one that's the most unique and the one that, I don't know, it kind of felt cool that I got to play with it was the Odyssey 3.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I ever
Magnavox.
touched it, but yeah.
So,
yeah, we had an Odyssey way back when. Holy cow.
Well, I got one when I was young. My father, he owned a grocery store. The different vendors, you know, the soda vendors and the chips and the cigarette, all those different guys that would bring in their product to our store, they were always running these contests. If your store sold more than anybody else in your area of their product, they would give you things. And one of the contests one time, the prize was a Magnavox Odyssey 3, and Dad won it and said, I don't know what this is. Here, take it.
Okay,
And
if
so-
I have to, Dad, I'll take it.
What I liked about that, it was my first console that had a keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
Because before that, I'd only had the Atari 2600. This was a keyboard, so I felt like I was a computer programmer with this thing, even though there was no computer programming whatsoever to be had with the Magnavox Odyssey. But it felt like I was growing up in technology.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
What about you, John?
Mine is favorite for different reasons. You know, like Mo, you said your favorite for Sonic was why you chose Sega. And, you know, George, kind of because you felt like you were evolving with the... I think maybe my favorite one was the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, great
That was a
system.
big one.
For weird reasons, too. Like, I didn't have a lot of Nintendos growing up. I was... My age, you know, I was into other stuff in the 80s. You know, my girlfriend's little brother had a Nintendo. I didn't. But when I got the Nintendo 64, that was kind of the game... system, and Mario 64 in particular, one of the best games ever. That game cemented for my family. I bought it, you know, and my wife was like, you know, why did you buy another video game thing? And I'm like, well, it's just... And you remember when you launched Mario, you had to pick, you know, which save, 1, 2, 3, or 4, A, B, C, D, right?
Right.
And I worked nights, and I came home from, you know, late at night, and my wife was in bed, and I fired up the Nintendo 64, and Game B had 10 stars. I'm like, oh my God, she started playing it on her own, unsolicited.
Right.
So having that N64 in the house, she watched me enough that she's like, this is actually interesting. It got her into video games. She wasn't before, and now she is. As I record this, she's in the next room playing Skyrim. So I think Nintendo 64, just because that was the thing that kind of, it blended my interest into my wife's interest, and it kind of really allowed me to explore being a Gen X grown-up because it's now accepted in my household.
That's good. That's a good one.
Okay, let's get right into our topic for this backtrack. And this was actually a suggestion written in by one of our listeners that we said, yep, that's a fantastic thing to talk about. And that is the environment experience around what we used to call Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh,
Yes. Nice.
Oh my God! Back in the day.
I feel like a bowl of cereal in front of me right now as we're talking.
Oh,
Don't you?
right,
Oh my God!
There's some blue milk right now
Right.
in front of me.
Lucky Charms.
So first, for those that didn't experience it, so George, explain what are Saturday morning cartoons?
So first of all, it's an event.
It is.
Yep.
If you grew up between the 70s through the 80s, Saturday morning cartoons is an event. It was the one thing that could make a child jump out of bed before their parents every morning, come tell their parents, make me cereal, I gotta watch my cartoons, I can't miss.
Yep.
And this was back in a day when there was no DVR, so if you didn't watch it when it first happened, you were out of
missed
luck
out.
on the playground the next day.
In my day, there was no internet, DVRs. I mean,
Right.
If you didn't see that Saturday morning cartoon, you didn't see cartoons.
No, and I remember specifically going to school Monday morning once or twice having missed my Saturday morning cartoons and feeling horrible as the kids were talking about it, because they didn't care about spoilers back then. Children did not care. They were all about spoiling your day.
If you missed it, though, I mean, it was another 13 weeks or something, so they started playing reruns.
Yeah, at least.
Oh, I know.
At least.
So they couldn't. They couldn't not hold it, you know. So
Right. They're like, George, did you see the new Thundar the Barbarian? No.
Well, let me tell you about it. Shut up.
Yeah, Saturday morning cartoons for me, though, growing up was like you said, George, I mean, that was the perfect thing. It was like my parents never had to wake me up. I was always up immediately for anybody else. And the fact that, like you said, during the week, you only had cartoons for like maybe an hour, maybe hour and a half after
when you got home from
like
school,
that
right?
3 to 4:30
Yeah.
time frame. They had a couple, but usually that was on local channels too, not even like network channels. So these were like the good network cartoons, the high production value ones.
And listeners might not remember if they're not of that age. Like, there wasn't a cartoon channel.
No.
There's
No Cartoon Network.
There was no cable. I mean, you had, here's the rabbit ears. You have ABC, NBC, CBS. Good luck.
That's
Yep.
it.
And PBS, right?
Yeah.
That was it.
And
Enjoy.
And you really had to choose as well, because like we said, there's no DVR. So if you were watching, Popeye on CBS, you couldn't switch over in the middle of it when Scooby's All Stars came on ABC. That wasn't going to happen. I mean, you had to stick with your cartoon.
But I tell you one thing though, after the first weekend, I knew exactly what channel to put it on at what time. Until Saturday morning cartoons were done. I was like,
Let me share my ritual. I remember, I was, 9 or 10 or whatever, right? So Saturday morning cartoons, the first periodical that I enjoyed reading regularly was the TV Guide. We got the TV Guide, and I
Yep.
went through that thing with a red marker, and I'm like, all right, Saturday morning, let's go.
It's like your Christmas
And you
list.
start weighing. You're like, what's better? Do I want to watch this cartoon or that? I'm like, no, this one wins. Draw a big
Yep.
red circle. Okay, at 8:30, what do I watch?
Yep.
And usually for me, I remember like the last thing was like an hour and a half of the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show.
That was always a standby.
That once you hit noon, it's over.
Yeah, it's done.
Yep.
And there was nothing on TV after that.
No, it was over at noon, and my ritual was I actually set my channel on the television in our living room the night before to whatever channel I was going to start with, so that when I came in, I flipped it on and boom, I'm there.
You already
And that was
tuned
kind
your
of a
rabbit
fight
ears
because-
and everything was ready to go.
Yeah, well, because it was kind of a fight with Dad because, he would obviously stay up later than I would. He would want to watch whatever show it was, and if it wasn't on the network I wanted that morning, as soon as he got up to go to the bathroom or went to the kitchen to make a snack, I would switch it over and turn the TV off real fast.
All right, so here's
Wow.
some. Do you guys remember the Friday previews before the Saturday morning cartoons, the new ones?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, every season. That was like a huge event because, and for those of you who don't remember, but basically, or weren't alive, so for the new season of cartoons came out, every network had a Friday preview show, and they would say, "Here are the new cartoons that are going to be on tomorrow," and it was usually Friday night, like 8 o'clock. It was like prime time thing. That's where you had to plan out your whole Saturdays. Like that was like your preview to say, okay, what am I going to focus on tomorrow? Which shows I'm going to watch. Like, okay, that's good. Okay, that's stupid. All right, that looks good. That looks stupid.
Well, and what about also the way that they started taking franchise licenses and turning them into cartoons? Because at first it was, your Bugs Bunny, your, Scooby-Doo, that kind of stuff. But then later on they started introducing, like video games as cartoons or TV shows.
Yeah, like Pac-Man had a show.
Oh yeah, I remember the Pac-Man.
There was this whole Nintendo, like Captain N or something.
Yeah,
I remember like a Nintendo themed, and it had all these Nintendo characters in it.
Sure, there was
They
even
had
a
one of
Dukes of
those.
Hazzard cartoon.
Yeah, Mork and Mindy had one.
Yeah.
Star
They're
Trek
all
had one, too.
short-lived too.
Yep, Star
That's
Trek
right,
had the
yeah.
best one. I don't care. As far as the TV show ports, Star Trek had the best animated series. It wasn't
Actually,
even
it
a
wasn't
cartoon.
bad.
It was an animated series.
The other thing about the Saturday morning cartoons was also like the stuff they would put in between shows, like Schoolhouse Rock or Time for Timer.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah,
That's right.
Time for
Yep.
Timer.
Time for time. Yeah, the PSAs. And that's
Yep,
when
that's
PSAs
right.
really you actually watched the commercials because they were sometimes as good as the cartoons, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
They were.
Conjunction Junction and I'm Just a Bill.
They had one on hygiene. I remember one about they call me Yuck Mouth because I don't brush.
My favorite was Louie the Lifeguard.
I still remember in elementary school, the teacher's like, she's like, okay, for this week we're all going to remember the preamble to the Constitution. and everyone in the class started singing.
Yep. Because
she's like,
we do the
okay,
song.
let's move on to
In
the next
order to
topic.
form a more perfect union.
She's like, what the hell is that from? Because everybody in the class knew it. Everybody started just singing it spontaneously. And she's like,
wow.
wow. You know, she was like, okay.
My work here is done.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, go draw or something for a while.
No more rehearsing and rehearsing upon. We know every part by heart.
One of my favorites that I enjoyed, or I want to talk about, was I had two, Dungeons and Dragons and Thundar the
yeah.
Barbarian.
Thundar.
Thundar was awesome. Ukla and Isis, yeah.
Yep.
Oh man, that whole post-apocalyptic. I mean, that kind of led me into Mad Max, really.
Yeah.
You know, because it was that whole, you know, and
Does that comet fly between the Earth and the Moon, and the moon
Yes.
splits?
the moon splits and the tides shift and everything goes crazy
Right,
and magic
yep,
enters the
yep.
world because apparently the tides and magic are very closely related.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah. I used to like the old Hanna-Barbera ones that came on. They would sometimes show like Johnny Quest.
Oh, Johnny
Yeah,
Quest.
Back in the day where bad guys actually died,
Yep.
That they did. Yeah.
they would blow, you didn't see body parts or something, but you knew, oh, he was in the exploding building. He's dead.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
He ain't coming back for a future episode.
You know what else? My memory could be off, but didn't like all the Sid and Marty Krofft stuff start on Saturday mornings before they got
I think-
syndicated?
That's when I remember watching it.
Yeah, I remember too.
Yeah, like Sigmund and the Sea Monster,
Monster.
and the Great Space Coaster, all that Sid and
Land of the
like
Lost.
people in big scary. Oh, Land of the Lost.
Land of the Lost.
The Slee Stack.
Now that can't be considered really a cartoon. That was live action.
No, it was Saturday morning entertainment though. It did
Saturday
it was
morning
Saturday
entertainment.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you that one.
Land of the Lost was it was bad effects and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Slee Stack.
A lot of blue screen and
What about Super Friends?
oh yeah,
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
form of a
Yep.
bucket of
The
water.
Wonder Twins. That's right.
the
man.
Wonder Twins.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're monkey gleek.
If you were like me and sounds like George, you got up extra early, so the real good cartoons didn't start until about 7:30 ish, maybe even 8.
Yeah, sometime around 8. Yep.
Yeah, 8. But I remember that at 7 o'clock though, the off channels had things like Davy and Goliath. And,
Oh, I gotta love Davy and Goliath.
Oh, I don't
and all
remember.
these
I didn't
other
see
ones
that. I
that
don't
I would
remember that.
No,
I would watch
That's
before the main cartoon
stop
started.
motion.
Oh, the
Yeah,
stop
it's-
motion
it's-
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Stop motion. Hey, Davy.
Hey, Davy.
Dog. It was like they were all like parables of the Lutheran Church or something.
Yeah.
Funded by the church.
Well,
and
and-
that paved the way for Moral Oral later on Cartoon Network.
Well, and you have to clue the listeners in on the off channels versus the networks because that's something that nobody today is going to recognize because of cable, this, that, and the other, and satellite TV and all, and
Yeah.
cord cutting online and whatnot.
Yeah, because you mentioned the ABC, CBS, NBC.
Those were your main nets,
You had your local UHFs, right?
right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I had some that weren't even local. I grew up in New York, so we had lots of channels. No, we had 2 more.
Oh.
No, we had 3 more
Special.
channels because we had PIX, which is channel 11, WOR, which was channel 9. See, I still remember these, and channel 5, which I can't remember, but became Fox. What was your favorite, John?
Oh,
What was
A
one
lot of- a
of your
lot of-
favorites? How about that?
notoriously, so many of them lasted a short time. They had little
Oh,
short
yeah.
runs. Like when Pac-Man first came out, I loved Pac-Man,
Yeah.
but it really didn't last. And once the novelty of that was Pac-Man wore off, it wasn't a great cartoon. There were a
Right.
lot of them like that. But really, for me, I think, and I still watch, is all the Looney Tunes, the
Oh,
Bugs Bunny Roadrunner stuff.
Yep.
First, it ran for like 38 years.
Oh, yeah.
And it was always good. Well, it wasn't one episode was really, they played like for an hour and a half usually at the end of the block, but they would play, in an hour and a half you would get 15 cartoons.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they were shorts. I really like that.
Yeah, those were really nice.
The thing that blows me away about those is the fact that some of the ones we watched, we didn't realize it probably at the time, were from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
You had no idea. You enjoyed them just as much. Roadrunner and Coyote. I mean, all of those were just fantastic.
And that's how most kids were first introduced to classical music.
Oh yeah.
Because their soundtrack was usually, classical music by great composers that they just worked in.
But it's funny you think about those. Like with us growing up, we really had cartoons for maybe throughout an entire week. You were lucky if there was 8 hours of cartoons on.
Right, yeah.
Including Saturday.
That you could watch through the whole week.
Yeah, because you had like your 4 hours Saturday morning and your 1 hour each day after school. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. And that was it. And just think now that Cartoon Network, and it's kind of crazy in a way that there's basically just 24/7. You can watch this stuff now.
You know, I was so starved for cartoons. I mean, as a kid, I mean, that's the TV show that speaks to you because, you know, it's like the Funny Papers.
Yeah.
But I remember when it was a prime time animation. Oh, I used to love.
Right.
2 seasons. There was this great show called Wait Till
Your Father Gets Home. Yeah, with Tom Bosley, the Happy Days dad was in it.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like cartoons are on, and it's dark outside. This is
Wait till your
amazing.
father gets-
And it wasn't really a kid's show.
No,
it was
it wasn't.
actually more. It was a prime time. It was a sitcom.
Yep.
It just happened to be animated.
Just happened to be
But I watched
animated.
it. It was a cartoon to me.
Exactly. It was people are drawing stuff, so I'm going to watch it.
You can't reproduce Saturday morning cartoons. I mean, that time is gone. I mean, the major networks don't even do it.
No, they're not going to give time to that. I don't know why. I guess because now they have marketing where they say 18 to 44-year-olds or whatever are their prime audience for purchases on the commercials or something. I don't know. Stupid.
And there's a station for cartoons, and they're not going to watch us because the Cartoon Network has it or whatever. Or you can just go watch cartoons whenever you want it on Netflix. You know.
Yeah.
And all that's cool, but the one thing we lost, all the cartoons are still out there. You can still watch all you want. There's more than there ever was, but that experience is just
They're,
something.
they're not
event.
special
Hard to explain.
anymore. Like, my kids are not going to have memories of Saturday morning, of cartoons in their lives. It's going to be like, cartoons were always there. Oh, SpongeBob, blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, I still remember, like, you could turn on the TV at any time, and for some reason, SpongeBob was always on. But,
I mean, because if you think about it, what was the biggest component to Saturday morning cartoons that made them so special? For me, it was the anticipation, right?
Yeah.
It was all week long, you know, okay, I get to watch my little hour when I get home from school, but when Saturday morning comes, that TV is mine.
It's like a little bitty Christmas.
Yeah, every week.
I know about your parents, but my dad was, like, very strict about TV during the week. Unless it was, like, an educational show or something like that, you basically was never on. But Saturday mornings, he said, the TV is yours.
Yep.
And that I got to watch whatever
And he's
I
sleeping
wanted.
in anyway.
Right. Yeah, it was kind of a family ritual if you think about it from the 70s and 80s. I mean, it was everybody knows Saturday mornings are for the kids, right? So the kids get to
that's right.
they've had a hard day in school all week long and your father would roll his eyes and, you know,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
he's had a hard day. Saturday mornings, even the grumpiest of fathers would relent and allow their children to have that one guilty pleasure, that one thing that they look forward to all week long.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known.
All right, so there's another episode of Backtrack. Saturday morning cartoons this time. We talked about a lot of stuff. If we can, we'll throw a bunch of things down in the show notes down below so you guys can go click and find out about the stuff that we enjoyed, and hopefully you'll start to enjoy it.
Yeah, if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to us on, however you get your podcasts, whether it's through Stitcher or TuneIn or iTunes.
That's right. Hey, and after you subscribe, if you're using iTunes, it really help us out if you would take a second and go over to the review section, give us 5 stars or however many you think we earn. I'm sure 5.
5.
And write just a quick review. And because the more reviews we have, it helps more people to find us because it helps iTunes push us higher up in the search ratings. And we'd really appreciate it.
And in case you weren't aware, and if you missed the first couple of minutes of this, which I don't know how you missed it because it's not like it was for Saturday morning cartoons, you actually have a DVR. It's the podcast itself. Yeah, this one was suggested to us by a listener email. So if you want to get your topic talked about on a GenXGrownUp Podcast or Backtrack, send us an email at podcast@GenXGrownUp.com.
And don't forget to visit us on YouTube or on our website at GenXGrownUp.com.
Wait, YouTube? We have a YouTube site now?
Who knew?
Yes, we have a YouTube. Every time with you, we don't have the YouTube. That's where we started.
Oh, that's where the videos are.
The
Yes,
videos, yes.
The talkies.
You edit them all the time.
I remember now.
And, hey, John, this is going to blow you away. We have a website.
Wait, oh my God.
Yeah.
No one tells me anything. So what's our website, Mo?
It's GenXGrownUp.com.
Good. Now our 4th listener knows the website.
Yes, right. Which he
I'm
already
just
does
glad-
because he sent us emails.
Apparently our leader now knows that we have a website.
Well, this is fun, as always. Thanks, guys. We will see you next week with another episode, and in 2 weeks with another Backtrack. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you guys.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Basically, life sucks as a grown